All right, welcome back. This is Keith from risingstronger.com. In this video, we're going to talk about why kettlebells are the best training tool for modern men. Okay, so let's get into why kettlebells are superior to other forms of training. And what I'm about to say very much comes from my own experience of spending a long time working out in the traditional way, going to a gym and kind of following, machines, dumbbells, barbells, which all have their place. They're things that I hold very dear to me still, but that I think are inferior in many ways for the average person in terms of training. And the first one on the list is that kettlebell training does not require a gym. And this is important for multiple reasons. Some of them we'll talk about a little bit further down. But the main ones are that if you don't have to go to a gym, it cuts out a big barrier of needing more time. So you need time to get there. You need time to get yourself together, get ready, change, potentially put your stuff in a locker and get home. For a lot of people, that can be something that stops them from going. And in my case, if you're like me, I am a father and a husband and I work full time. And if I were to take that extra time in addition to training, in addition to my workout to go to the gym, that would be putting a burden on somebody else, on my wife potentially. So the time factor is significant, which increases the likelihood of consistency. If that barrier is not there, if it's just a matter of either coming home or being at home and picking up your kettlebell, there's a lot higher likelihood of being consistent and following through with training. And that means that increases also the likelihood and potential of longevity, of working out consistently over a longer period of time, staying in shape, keeping up with health, staying stronger. We'll get into some of those further down as well. But, again, removing that barrier to doing and consistently keeping up with workouts and training. The last thing in terms of not having a gym that I want to say here is the difference in environment. For some people, maybe the gym is the environment they like. For me personally, for where I'm at and where I've been in my life, it's not the environment that I want to be in. The gym tends to be a very ego-driven environment. A lot of it comes down to looks and numbers and things like that. And, it's not necessarily something that I think is always good for people who are trying to use fitness as something to really improve how they go about the rest of their lives and how they show up in their lives. And we'll talk about that a little bit more too. But I think it's something to consider, that the gym environment can be one that harbors a lot of lower level emotions and tendencies, let's say, that pulls that out. The second reason why kettlebells are the best tool for modern men is that they tend to be inherently more functional. And that's a word that gets like tossed around a lot and gets stale, but it's true. If your goal in being fit is to show up fully in your life, maybe to be able to participate with your kids or to be able to do things, whatever life throws at you, the strength and fitness gained from something like a kettlebell, just inherently in the main exercises, when learned and practiced properly and with intention, let's say the goblet squat, the swing, the clean, press, snatch, and get up, not necessarily any particular order, they have, within that, there's the ability to correct a lot of the things and strengthen a lot of the weaknesses that we tend to pick up from a lot of sitting, a lot of being on our phones, having our heads forward. And I think it's easier on the body. Not I think, they tend to be easier on the body, because as opposed to something like a barbell where you have to move your body around the bar, a kettlebell, you move the kettlebell around your body. So it tends to be easier on joints. And I think that it's true that what you build in that way is real world strength and fitness, where, I think that because of the way that we live, we've lost even the concept of the fact that training should be something that makes us more capable. And it was my experience, and I see it with many people who are, dedicated to working out, that they have a certain level of strength or muscle development and fitness that fits really well or applies really well to the specific things that they do at the gym. But if you go out and try to do something real world, carrying a kid, playing with a kid, climbing a tree, picking something up, carrying stuff in, there's always tweaks and pain and injuries and things like that. And I just don't think that that's that's ideal. And we can get away with it because our modern world is just so soft in a way. Like, we do so much sitting, so much of it has to do with being behind screens, and we don't really inherently have a lot of the physical demands that maybe we would have other times. But that looks like it may change. The world is very uncertain right now, and I think it's worth considering that having functional strength and fitness that carries over into your life is important. The next one is that training with kettlebells makes it very easy to train outside, which is a huge benefit in and of itself. If this gets into a little bit deeper realms of health, but like training indoors in poor quality air under artificial, oftentimes LED lights, disconnected from the ground, wearing thick shoes and things like that, is far inferior to being outside, getting sunlight, getting fresh air, having bare feet on the ground. That's something that a lot of the year we can be outside, we can get our bare feet on the grass, and that just increases the healthfulness that we gain from our exercise. It tends to, even that grounding effect tends to help with joint pain. I think it helps with recovery. It helps with endurance during working out. But in addition to that, the fresh air, the sunshine, they're all things that are so important to human health and happiness, and that most of us get very little of. And it's paradoxical to think that most of us are indoors. We get in a car, we get in a building for work, we get back in a car, go to a gym indoors, and then come home and be indoors. Any opportunity that we can get to be outside is important. And not just that we can get outside in that like comfortable, nice weather type of thing, but it also adds the component of building the resilience of getting outside when it's cold, getting outside when it's hotter. These all, work your body in ways that make it more resilient in ways that we can't get when we're constantly in climate controlled environment. So I really love that component of kettlebells. And that was one of the things for me that, helped to shift me fully over to not wanting to go to a gym anymore and just putting all my eggs in the basket of home training with kettlebells. The next one is that they are inexpensive. I like to say that kettlebells are the people's tool. Like, it's inexpensive. Anybody can learn it with, for a person starting out, even one kettlebell can be enough for a while, but at the most 2 or 3 can last somebody for years, potentially, like 3 years of getting stronger, getting more fit, building muscle, just understanding how to move variables around. For a small investment, you can have a tool that will last forever in a sense. And at the end, I have one that I think applies or makes it very interesting where that investment can go long term. The next, which parallels the inexpensiveness, is that they're compact. So if you live, if you don't want to dedicate an entire room or area of your house to making it a gym, kettlebells can just be put up against the wall or in a corner, in a closet even, and take up very little space. The next is that they're portable. So for me, for instance, over the past few years, we've done a decent amount of traveling, going to Maine, to North Carolina, to New Jersey, to Maryland, like visiting people and going on, trips and vacations. And I always put 1 or 2 kettlebells in the car, and I can keep up with, my movement practice and my strength training wherever I go. And that, again, to me, that's a huge benefit, not losing that momentum. And I love it. I mean, especially when, like, I think that people who don't like working out just have never understood how to do it in a way that it doesn't have to feel like a chore. It doesn't have to feel like it's too extreme and beating you up, because it doesn't have to be that way. Gaining strength, getting fit, building muscle can be something that you don't have to leave feeling, worn out. It doesn't have to be exhausting. It doesn't have to be like dreadful. I think it can be fun and, exhilarating and energizing. But to me, missing workouts or not having the ability to do that, like, I don't like that. So the portability is another huge one. And with those three things, well, with those two things, the compact and portable, it makes it possible to get movement in throughout the day, which again is so important. It kind of is like the outdoor type of thing. Like, it's not, it's better than nothing to get in a workout, a couple times a week. But when we are sitting in the car, sitting at work, sitting in the car, going to the gym, coming home, sitting for dinner, sitting watching TV, something like that, it's not enough for most people. And sometimes it's even like too much to do in that one jolted way. But if we can get in more movement throughout the day and get in, however many times a week, a good workout, it's far better for our health. It's far better for our like mobility, for our energy. So being able to carry a kettlebell, maybe even keeping one at work if you work in an office, or, if you have a home office or whatever, just somewhere that throughout the day you can stand up, pick it up, do a few things, get back to work, and do that all throughout the day, mixed with other, body weight types of things. Like, that can have a huge benefit. And it's not something that you can necessarily have if you're only going to a gym, or if you have like a home gym or whatever that has mass amounts of equipment and big equipment. The next one is that kettlebells tend to be technique focused. So somebody could just buy a kettlebell and learn it all wrong and, screw themselves up or get hurt. But kind of inherent to kettlebells, what I see that I don't see, and I'm currently working on my second certification as a kettlebell teacher with a second organization, but that's, training people with kettlebells is one of the things that I do as part of my, day-to-day work. But what I see is that kettlebells tend to have a much stronger emphasis on technique and learning it right and practicing good movement for the sake of, being able to do it consistently. You get hurt, you can't work out, or you can't work out fully. You can't get the most out of it. But learning them properly, learning the techniques, it's much more like a martial art than what most people think of as fitness, where you just kind of get in the workout, push through any pain, no gain type of thing. When it's technique focused, it tends to be something that, and I think even learning the skill is really good for mental health. Three of the most important things for depression, I think you could say, are learning new skills. So you have kettlebells, there's always skills to be learned. There's always, like technique to be tweaked and optimized and practiced. Movement and exercise, and community, or, doing things with people. So you can potentially have all those three if you're doing, kettlebells in some type of group environment. But even having those two, the skill building, very good for your brain, learning something new, very good for your brain, and the movement and exercise, very good for your brain. But I love that with kettlebells, there's a certain amount of technique. Like, it's a practice that can go on forever. It's just like martial arts. You're never like there. You're never as good as you could be. There's always something to be better. And again, you can apply that in other forms of exercise, but I think inherently it tends to be more a part of kettlebells and kind of the kettlebell component or niche of health and fitness, let's say. And then the last two here go together, but I think they're super important, whether you're a father now like I am, or planning to be a father at one point in time, or even have family members around. Training at home is an example for the people around us. Like my son, who's just about to be 2, he watches and he gets excited, when he sees a kettlebell come out. He has his own little word for it, his own attempt at saying kettlebell. But it's something that means a lot to me, that he gets to see his father taking care of himself, not in a vain way, but in a way that, that I need in order to show up fully for him, to have energy and preserve my health and be strong, and to move along with him as he goes through his life, and for future kids. And also just see that that's a part of what we do. Like, we move. Humans are designed to move. Another kind of rule of thumb that I think is so great to just keep in mind is that we're never not training. We're either training to be strong and to move well, or we're training to be weak and dysfunctional. Like, if all we're doing is sitting all day and not training in some way, we're still, or not like deliberately training, to be stronger and to be fit. We're still training. We're just training our bodies to be dysfunctional. So being able to show that that's something that we do, and same thing for my wife, like, it's something that, like, we tend to feed off of each other in that way. And it's important to me to set that example, that just, that's what we do. There's the last one here about kettlebells is it's something that can be handed down. There's a quote that you never really own a kettlebell. You simply protect it, or I might not get the quote exactly right, and I don't know who said it, but you never really own a kettlebell. You simply protect it for the next generation. And with what I just said, with, kids and especially kids, like, think about that. Like, when my son is watching me use my kettlebells, and from the age of, like, as soon as he could comprehend in any way what was going on, seeing me moving, seeing me training, like, it's going to mean something to him one day, probably. And being able to just hand them down, that they're practically indestructible, that, again, it's not like, 5,000 pounds of equipment and a whole room full that somebody may not want, but just to even have that possibility, to me, is really cool. And another thing that I want to add about the training at home and kind of setting that example, there's an idea in the book Iron John by Robert Bly, which is, a book about and for men. It's very interesting, but he talks in there about how important it is for kids to see their father working, and how there's something that is, like, inherently missing when fathers work out of the house. And like, most of us do to some degree, but kids don't fully comprehend that there's, like, a gap. Why aren't they here? I know they're going to work, but what is this work? There's some lack of trust or suspicion that develops, whether we or they like it or not. And so I think just having that, being able, like, even if you work out of the house, having something that is an example that you can set, where your kids are able to see that, like, well, here's some work being done. It's different than maybe the work that we bring in money from, but this is work that we bring in the energy and the health and, the consistency and all that. I think that in this world where, like, our kids are sort of disconnected from what we do so much, it adds something that, like, can't really happen the same way if we're working out at a gym. So to me, it's another thing that's really important. But I really do think that the kettlebell is the people's tool. It's, you don't need a lot of money, you don't need a lot of space, you don't need a ton of time, you don't need fancy equipment. Like, it's raw, it's effective, it's durable, it's inexpensive. So in my opinion, kettlebells are the best training tool for modern men. Thank you for your time. Check out risingstronger.com. I currently have, if you're on the path of trying to improve your mental and physical health, I have a free download of what I call high mileage foods. So the guide is a list of the 10 best foods that anybody who, struggles with depression or anxiety or struggles with their energy should be eating regularly. And then I think it's 10, but a handful, maybe even more than 10, of the foods that we should just absolutely be avoiding, the ones that contribute to inflammation and gut health issues and all these things that tend to underlie things like depression and anxiety and concentration issues and, poor sleep and fatigue and all that stuff. So you can check that out. I may be changing what I have on there soon. So depending on when you watch this, it may be slightly different. Or not changing, but adding. I have some other kind of free resources that I want to add. But check out risingstronger.com. You can also sign up for a free 20-minute breakthrough session, I call it. So if you are struggling, you're confused, you're overwhelmed, trying to improve your health, want to get in better shape, and learn how to eat right for your body and your brain and what works for you, you can sign up for that. You can provide some more details we can go through, but basically just talk about where you're at. And if it's not a good fit for us to work together, I can usually suggest some resources, either somebody else or, a book, something like that. So feel free to check that out. Again, I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.